Welcome back. Today is the final weigh-in day and butchering day for our bunnies. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this one here is a little over 4 weeks old, or 4 months old, I'm sorry. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with him. And the way we're gonna weigh him is I just have this bucket hooked up to a fish scale, and that's what we're gonna use to weigh him. So let's take a look at this. We'll let it zero out. All right, we're zeroed out, and then we're going to stick them in the pail. Yeah. All right, and he is at 6.78 pounds. So that is his live weight, and we'll see what it is after we get him cleaned up. So there's a lot of ways that you can dispatch bunnies. I know people have hit them over top of the head with a blunt object and it makes them pass out, and then you can cut its throat. Obviously you can put a lead pill through its skull, but the method that I use, I put a broom handle, or in this case I have a sledgehammer handle, and I stick it right back here behind the head, and then I step on the handle, and then I give a swift jerk up on the hind legs, and it breaks the neck of the bunny and they die instantly. So I know it sounds bad, but fairly humane. But you gotta make sure you do it quick and you do it right. All right, and then once they're done kicking and stuff, I have this hooked up on an old clothesline. I have a slip knot, and I tie it up right behind the hind legs there, hind foot. And this is just so they can bleed out for a couple minutes. That's all that's for. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the hide off the bunny. I'm going to show you two different ways of doing it, the way that I'm going to do it this time, and then another way if you wanted to save the hide. And if you want to save the hide, it's better to do while it's still hanging. But if you come in, I'll give you a show of how to do that, or how I do that. So again, while it's hanging up, bleeding out, I go ahead and I cut right around this joint here. I go and cut around, but be careful not to cut into the tendons. And then I cut down the hind leg to the tail. And then you want to cut around the butt. That way you don't damage any of that. And then you'll have a clean seam across here. And then with the weight of it just hanging and you pulling, you can pull this down just kind of like a sock. And it'll come right off the rabbit, right down along the front legs and down to the neck. And then you just have to trim around the leg to cut it off the leg, and then around the head wherever you want it taken off, and you'll have basically like a sock of fur. And then later on there's a seam inside of the fur that you could just trace and cut straight down the seam. But we are not going to be saving the hides, so the way that I'm going to do it today is I'm just going to cut around the chest cavity of the bunny, and I'm just going to pry the fur off in those two directions. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So again, I just feel for the ribs, just so I don't cut in. You grab a hold of the flesh, so that way you're not cutting into the intestines or anything. You want to make sure that you don't do that. All right, so there we go. I got it cut all the way around. So now at this point, all I need to do is I need to grab a hold of some of it. You just need to start pulling. And it'll basically come right off. So now all I'm doing in here is getting the skin, putting my thumb in there and pulling it away from the leg. And I can get my thumb in behind the leg and give it a pull. And it'll come right out. got down to that joint, that socket. I'll do the same thing on this side. And down to the neck. All right, that part there's done. And we just do the same down on this end. And I'm just getting my thumb in between the flesh, the meat, and then the hide, the skin. I'm just pulling, and it'll pull the leg. There's that one. All right, now at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut around the internals here to make sure I get a clean, so that it doesn't come out dirty or anything. And then we'll go ahead and cut off the legs and the neck. And then we'll start cleaning the inside of this rabbit up. The same down here, just go through that knuckle. I need to bring it out just a hair more. See that knuckle. And kitchen shears would probably be a little easier to use than a knife. But just take your time and it'll be fine. All right, and then I just left the tail on, and we'll get that when we get to cleaning up the rest of this. Again, like I said, you will get some hair on this. We clean it up afterwards. Or you can wet down the hair, and that kind of helps before you start. But all right. I'm just going to cut down between the pelvis bone here. Get the testicles and stuff off of him. And then cut right down. And be careful not to cut the rectum. You just want to kind of cut around in there, loosen everything up, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. But you don't want to cut into it, so be very careful. And cut that part off there, the tail. You will probably get some of that happening, but like I said, just be careful not to cut that, or else you'll have a mess inside. All right, so then the next thing I do is I just put my fingers up inside there to make a barrier between it and the intestines, and then I just trace straight up through the middle here. And there's a seam right here going right up through here, and that's kind of what I just follow. So again, I just get my fingers up in there and go up. So as you can tell, I'm making a barrier between the intestines and my finger, so the blade of the knife does not go through there. That would make a big mess. And I just cut it up to the sternum there. So, right up to the breastbone. Alright, so now that I've done some of the prep work and cut around the anus and stuff, now I just want to carefully remove all of the innards. Hold on, let me go get a bucket. I'll be back. Alright, so now, like I said, I cut this all up here, so we're just going to pull it through the cavity. And then just kind of grab what you can and just start pulling it. There's a lot of fat right there, but take the fat, move the intestines out. There's the kidneys, and then there's a diaphragm in here that'll separate the guts from the lungs and the heart. So you want to cut through that, or you can just rip through it. It's not that hard to rip through. And there's the lungs. The heart. You can pull all this stuff out. And the trach. Alright, so then everything's out. Kidneys and liver. Now I'm just going to throw this into the pile, the junk bucket. And the lungs. Alright, so then I just go through after I get done with that, and I take this diaphragm out. Got your inner loins in here, your hind legs, you got your back strap and your front legs. So this one's got quite a bit of meat on it. Take another chunk of fat off of there. All right, and then the last thing I do, I just throw this in the waste bucket. Last thing I do is I just hose it down and clean it out so the blood and that doesn't sit in it, and then I take the tail off. So all right, so then we'll just get the final weigh. And the final weigh for him is 3.7. So the only other thing I'm going to do today with this is I'm going to stick it in a cooler that I have a bunch of ice in and give it a ice bath until tomorrow. And we'll do a final cleanup to try to get as much hair off of it, that whatever's left on it. I got most of the hair off, but and then we'll package it up. So I'm not going to bore you with doing all the rest of them. I'll see you when we get ready to package them up. All right, there we go. We got 12 of them done today in a salt bath, and or a ice bath, I mean. And we're going to just let them sit until the rigor mortis works its way through, and then we'll be packaging them up. Okay, so this is what we ended up with. We went ahead and we just packaged them all whole this time instead of sectioning them up. So if I section up the next batch, I'll show you guys how I section those up and package those. But this is what we ended up with. We did 12 rabbits all together. I ended up giving one away to my cousin already, just as a thank for all of the work that he does for us. But live weight for the 12 bunnies that we did was 79.23 pounds. And the total butchered weight was 43.23 pounds of meat that we ended up to put in our freezer. We're gonna go ahead and get these put in the freezer. And I just want to thank everybody for watching and for all your support. And if you like this kind of video, give me a thumbs up and go ahead and hit that subscribe. Get out and enjoy the outdoors, and God bless.